You're about to listen to the Metz Mortuary recap right here on Shadow Radio.
First and foremost, what was the most interesting part of it?
Well, I got to say the stay at the Metz was interesting all the way around. Because nowadays it is an antique shop.
Okay.
So there's a lot of really cool old items everywhere. So, I mean, not only the fact was it a mortuary, but now you got items from God knows what time and what they've been around, what they've been through. It was just really cool.
Definitely. Metz Mortuary, for those of you that don't know what the Metz Mortuary is a location in York, Nebraska that we had the opportunity to check out. It was actually used to be a morgue, funeral home, and they used to do the embalming and all that upstairs at the location. Trey and myself had the opportunity right around Christmas time to go check this location out. It was definitely a great location to check out. Never have we had anything like that on the channel. It was one of those we didn't know what to expect, and the fact that it was an antique parlor on top of it, we really wanted just to see if we could capture anything, let alone some of the things could have attachments to them and stuff like that.
So to isolate things, it would have been very difficult.
Oh, very difficult.
very, very difficult. But it was a cool experience just to go.
Definitely.
I mean, it was really cool that there was the embalming area still.
And all that was still intact. Like
the only thing there wasn't the pool drawers or tables weren't there.
Yeah, but the gunnery, the embalming toilet, a wheelchair, and those things were still at this location, which that was awesome because having that experience, But to top it off, what was the most interesting for me is having the same experience that that the owner had, actually. The owner of the location had an experience, and then Trey and myself had an experience like that to start the investigation that night. And then we didn't have much of an experience for a little bit after that, but I'm pretty sure it was just trying to get our attention to that certain area or push us sort of out of that area.
I gotta tell you, if you're gonna start investigating, get these goddamn cat balls, because they seem to they seem to work.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, there's times where nothing happens, and then there's times where you can't get them to almost stop. But it depends on where we're at. Depends on the type of activity we're dealing with. If it's residual, if it's intelligent, if there's any activity at all, and all those things. But these cat balls, I stand by. When we're running an EVP and we ask if it can set off that cat ball,
or do a yes or no question, and it does it.
And during that investigation at the Metz, I said, "Can you set this cat ball off just to show Trey it was just going off?" Waited about 5 seconds, and the thing just like boom, boom, boom.
Well, that's the crazy thing. Like downstairs in the basement, we were getting them to go off, and then it hit a point where we couldn't get them to go off at all.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I think it had to do with startlement, almost like got scared, because there was an incident where the flashlight dropped, and it seemed like me and Trey it was pitch black in there.
It kind of stopped after that.
It sort of died down a little bit, and then we had that experience in that other room right after that, when that was the only ball to go off in the basement again, unless the ball was going off when we weren't in the basement. You know what I mean? When we were using the restroom or taking a break. But we tend to record while we're away, or have a standstill looking over stuff while we're away,
right,
so we can review it. But the Metz, definitely very, very interesting place, knowing the history of it being an old morgue, furniture store, and now it's an antique shop. So there's a lot of different history.
When I was picturing going to this place, I did picture the pull-out drawers and like actual morgue setup.
But I didn't expect that embalming.
I didn't expect the embalming stuff to be there.
I didn't expect
still
that.
But I mean, I expected to see, some other
pole
than,
drawers.
I mean,
or
but
something like that.
but the stuff that was there was really cool.
Definitely. And
You don't get to see that stuff very often.
the elevator shaft, I would have loved to be able to use that elevator shaft if it was ever operable again. Just because that is the original elevator shaft.
Yeah, it was wooden.
Yeah. It was crazy.
I mean, I guess, and this was a morgue before the times of the pull-out drawers, so
Yeah.
I mean, they had a different system.
Oh, yeah.
But
And even cataloging stuff, I'm sure there is filing cabinets, but filing cabinets today ain't the same as filing cabinets were 10 years ago, let alone 60, 80, Same thing.
no, the whole thing was just really interesting.
Yeah. Oh.
Just going into the antique shop downstairs, it was cool.
Yep.
It definitely took me back to.
Yeah, there were
There
items.
you wouldn't think that you'd see some of this stuff, and God, I'm an antique.
There's some items in there. We went from being Brett and Tre to American Pickers.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I need that. At
Yeah.
one point, I literally called my wife. I was like, Ray, they have the whole collection of M&M dispensers. Oh, we could get those.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
The lady was really nice, giving us the opportunity to check out the location, the antique store owner.
Right.
Her having the same experience as we did to start the night. Her experience was she heard a whistle.
Okay.
She came to check it out. It sounded like she was being like,
Right.
commanded to come to the front. Well, Trey and myself, we hear it, and there's a whistle, and it's faint, but it's loud enough for us to hear it. Both of us caught it. We looked at each other. We asked each other at the same time, "Did you hear that?" And sure enough, we walked to the area where we thought we heard it, and we hear it again. And that's how that investigation started. I'll always remember that. Like, that's just a special investigation moment. Like, she told us about a personal experience,
Right.
and that's
and
how
we were able to
actually,
get the same thing that happened.
Yeah,
Which is awesome.
Right, and it was like clockwork too, because we were talking about starting an investigation, and whether or not to wait a little bit and get figured out how we were going to set up, and we heard the whistle. That was definitely interesting. We looked around, made sure there were no, I look for speakers on, cameras and stuff, because sometimes, you never know. And I also took the opportunity to look around for, clocks, little knick-knack clocks and stuff, just because sometimes they do the whistle and the chime,
Right.
I didn't really see anything that would make that sort of sound, like humanistic sound. So, I chalked that up as a positive for that investigation. We did have activity when we were on the second floor. We were sitting in the main area on the second floor, where is by the office